Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So I got a little bit of a treat for you today. As you can see, we are here bright and early. We got some freshly oiled lanes here on a weekend morning. I'm going to be filming two videos today. Both of them are kind of similar. One you've already seen on this channel before. I'm going to be doing a pin up versus pin down equinox video. So stay tuned for that a little bit later. First to come is a video I've been trying to do for a while. Just been super busy, have not had the opportunity to really get out on the lanes and get a good feel for, I don't want to say get a good feel, but get a good gauge of what I want to show you. So hopefully on the fresh, it's going to kind of get my message out a little bit better, and that's with the level. Okay, I do have two levels. I do have one with a much higher pin. The layouts are going to be like here, and if I'm doing this and they're not here, this feels really weird that I'm doing this and there's nothing popping up, but hopefully they show up. Anyway, it's going to be one with like a little bit of a higher pin and a shorter pin, and one's going to be a little bit of a lower and a longer pin. So I'm going to explain what I think the differences are going to be for both of them. We're going to see if you can find them out as I throw them down the lane. And hopefully when we wrap things up, we will have some type of discussion about, you know, where this ball fits in your bag, if it actually fits a slot at all. We're going to get into that at the end. But for right now, let's just get to the shots and talk about what we see. All right. All right. So we're going to go with the one with the larger pin buffer. So the one with the lower pin at the start here. I threw like one or two shots of practice, so I'm still not really warmed up, but let's just see what we got. Woo, baby. So one of the things I wanted to mention, I did bring these down to a little bit of a lower surface first, and then I just put them back to 1,000, so they both have fresh covers. It's a little bit in. Handled it well. So obviously in the intro I didn't really say too much about ball reaction or any specifications. I wanted to get right into the shots and then kind of discuss what we see in those. One of the things I did want to bring up is I did mention layout. So this has the lower pin. The larger pin buffers are going to be a little bit lower flaring, so not going to hook as much, and they're going to be a little bit smoother down lane as well. A little wide. This is running them over on the fresh, isn't it? Remember that. Remember, I said that. All right. We're going to move a little left here. 2 boards to be exact. I was around 22, 22 and a half before. Now we're on 25. So yeah, this ball handles the move to the left. Handles it well. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to get straight into my second one, which is much higher pin. So a little bit more flaring. Hopefully going to get us a little bit more left here. Even though the last one looked good, we're not moving. Same thing. That one's in the soup. Aha! And therein lies one of the issues. Okay, I'm going to move it back to the right, the starting point of the whole video. So 22. Remember, these have the same surface, just 2 different layouts. Back to the starting point. This is the taller pin. All right. So this is going to be the first shot. I'm right of 20. we're obviously migrating right here because this one, for some reason, is hooking less, which we'll discuss. So taller pin, moving right. Gonna play a slightly more direct line, and I'm on 19 now, so we're not crossing all of that ugliness in the middle. Right in front of us, much better. Now, probably gotta think, why did such a small adjustment make such a big difference in reaction? Keep that in mind. So for those who are a little frustrated that I'm not really explaining any details yet, the point is, I think there was too much talk about what this ball was supposed to be or going to be. And I'd rather people watch it roll and make their own decisions based off of what they see rather than what they hear. So same thing, 19. It's a little bit more left, but notice it handled that straighter angle a lot better. One more from the same spot. I'm going to try and open my angles up a little bit, not too much. Just get a little bit more right off my hand. See if we can draw some conclusions. There we go. All right, everybody, so let's get to the conclusion here. I know I didn't show much. These are the two layouts. You're going to see probably don't look too much different, but their reactions were quite a bit different. So this is what we're going to get into. I'm sure I showed the numbers before. This is the one that's 4x4x2. So 2-inch means it's got the larger pin buffer, so it's further away from the vertical axis line. This one, obviously the taller pin, it's a lot closer to the vertical axis line. This is a 1-inch pin from the vertical axis line, sorry. So a 1-inch buffer. And then in terms of pin distance, this one is 4 inches and this one is just a little bit less at 3 3/4. So you're going to look at these two reactions and you're going to say, well, this is the shorter pin, this is the taller buffer, so the shorter buffer, the taller pin, so more flare. This was the one that I was being more direct with. So you might be asking yourself, when you got further left, this one really didn't have much juice down lane, whereas the one with the longer pin and the shorter buffer should have been a little bit smoother, and this one seemed to be a little bit sharper. This is what we're going to get into. So first things first, I do want to make sure that, disclaimer, I get this out there now. In my humble opinion, these are brand new tools that we've never had before in the bowling industry. Not just in the SPI line, ever. Doesn't matter which manufacturer. I know there's been a lot of comparisons. This is its own entity, in my opinion. So we have to generate new opinions, and I hope that what you saw out there, without me giving anything away, was able to help you formulate your own. Now, I know this video is coming out a little bit late. You've probably seen people bowling really well with it. I will say a few things. So first, for those of you that don't know, I do live in South Florida. We are in South Florida right now. And a lot of the bowling centers down here in South Florida tend to have front panels that hook a lot. They're very high friction. So bowling balls like sanded urethane, solid urethane, tend to not look as well on those, no matter the pattern, for the simple fact of they kind of hook and then they end up looking like house balls down the lane, which is pretty much what you want a urethane ball to do, but you'd like a little bit of shape. So those are impossible to throw. Obviously, we don't want to use those for house patterns anyway. To me, this does exactly what they say it does. It bridges the gap between urethane and reactive. Now, why is that important? To me, the reason that's so important is because before, a lot of bowlers across all brands had to kind of manipulate the way in which they drilled bowling balls to get them to react in a manner that would bridge that gap. The fact that there is a tool that we can drill in our normal drill patterns and still have that bridge gap without having to worry about doing too much, to me speaks volumes about how far we've come technologically. So now let's get into the why I think we saw what we saw versus what you might be thinking. So first thing, obviously the first 5 shots with this ball, you saw it get to the spot down lane and absolutely just go dead left. To me, this new cover stock is extremely strong. We speak about oil absorption a lot, and it's one of the things that I think they knocked out of the park with not only this ball, but the Equinox as well. This ball does, there's, for a urethane type reaction, it definitely doesn't leave any oil on the surface like a urethane ball would. So it definitely absorbs oil like a reactive ball. So what does that necessarily mean? What that means is you're getting a fresh cover every time. It's not going to get down lane. It's not going to flare over the oil rings that were there from 2 shots ago. It might do it from the one that's in the same shot right then and there, but it's not going to generate that carry down that you were thinking, that a lot of people were worried about that you might get. So you're getting a fresh reaction every time. So now let's discuss why this was able to do what it was able to do versus why this looked the way it did. 4x4x2, longer pin, lower buffer. So what's going to end up happening is the lower pin is going to help the ball not read the front part of the lane as early, and then the 2-inch is going to help the ball not be as quick down lane. So it's going to be a little bit of a lower flaring ball, and it's going to be a little bit heavier rolling for the simple fact that it's going to be storing up a little more energy due to the 4-inch and longer pin. One of the things I did also want to mention that I noticed while I was saying all that I didn't add was the core numbers. Very unique core numbers for a bowling ball nowadays. I don't really think you see anything with these numbers. And again, I'm not big on the exacts, but I know the RG is in the upper 50s and I know the diff is in the 20s. So the lower the RG, the earlier the ball rotates, the earlier ball gets into a roll. The higher the RG, the less the ball rotates off the hand, and the later it kind of gets into that roll. And then differential, for those of you that, just want to kind of make it easy, pretty much how much the ball hooks, right? Your plastic balls have like no diff, those cores don't really have a diff, and these are all core numbers. So you take this strong cover, you put it on that weak core, and what that's telling me is that we really want something that is we have something that, because of the strength of the cover, is going to, it's almost like fight itself, right? Whereas it's so strong, it wants to roll early, especially when it comes at that 1000 grit, but at the same time, it's got the higher RG that doesn't want it to get into a roll. And I think that's the uniqueness that bridges that gap between urethane and reactive. What makes it so great is that its design intent matches exactly what it does out on the lanes. Now, as I started to move a little bit left, you saw this one retained its energy and was fine, where this one was having a problem. The higher pin, the more it flares, the earlier it's going to use up that energy. And because of its low diff, all of that energy being used up early is not good because now it loses it down lane. So for me personally, you saw this one be a little bit more direct because it was using up its energy a little bit sooner and not conserving it for the down lane reaction. Whereas this one was kind of doing the exact opposite, right? It was blending the back part of the lane great. It wasn't using up all of its energy in the front part. And that's why we saw the big differing reactions. So to wrap everything up, I'm happy I drilled both of these. As you can see, they're much different, even though the layout's not that much different. So R&D has told us to make sure, we tell people to drill them strong. I agree, these are pretty strong layouts. I can see myself going to this one, the one with the shorter pin and the smaller buffer, right after I'm throwing urethane, so I can keep my angles a little bit more direct. Whereas I can see myself going to this one when I have to kind of bounce in a little bit and shape it a little bit more. So this one's going to start losing that energy, and this one's going to conserve it a little bit more for me. All right. If you guys have any questions regarding this new technology and where I think everything fits, please leave it in the comments and I will respond to the best of my abilities. I know there's a lot of other videos and theories out there right now about what to do with these bowling balls and where they fit and what you should be throwing them for. All I'm going to say is you probably don't want to throw it on a house shot where I live. It's just a little bit too much friction in the front part of the lane, and it's not really going to give you the shape you're looking for. For those of you that live a little bit further north and some of you have some tighter house shots at the start and you can keep your angles in front of you, this might be great. A good friend of mine, Landon Carnate, go check out his channel here on YouTube. I think he shot 300 with his the first night he was throwing it, and I watched some of his shots, and he was able to keep his angles pretty straight. So he's a phenomenal bowler, PBA regional bowler, awesome guy. So go check out his channel if you want to see how he did with his. Besides that, thank you guys for all your support. I hope I was able to kind of introduce a little bit of information into your thought process that might not have been there before. I hope we can combine your opinion with what I think I saw out on the lane along with the numbers. And hopefully we drew a conclusion that's going to be great for everybody, all right? So as always, thank you for watching. This has been a Storm Nation Scott Anderson Bowling production. And as always, bowl up a storm.